What's up, Lo?
What's up?
Everyone watching this. This is episode 3 of At the Movies.
We made it to 3.
And
wow.
We made it to 3. We haven't been canceled yet. I don't know who's in charge.
Wow.
Lord willing, we'll be back next week for episode 4.
Still picking these up.
I thought it'd be fun if we did. Yeah, I thought it'd be fun if we did something a little different this time and introduced the film by saying a sentence word by word. So I'll say a word and then you say a word.
Okay.
And we'll just see how long we can. So this
movie
is
about
a
character
who
loves
sex
and
being
tied
to
a
horror.
Anyways, we watched Videodrome.
Well, yeah, so I was gonna say, I was trying to make it go toward the being. I was gonna say being brainwashed, and then trying to swing it towards like being tied to several TV cults. But that was a fun little. That was an exercise. We watched Videodrome, folks.
That worked. I mean, it worked out pretty well for not knowing that we were doing that. So, I mean, hey. It's a free show, people. It's a free show, people. Come on, it's free.
This is all right. So this is weird. This is a coincidence. Our first episode of Scanners.
Yeah.
1981.
Yep.
And it makes sense that this film would be close to that chronologically because there's not that huge of a break between the two. But we are also watching our Scorsese films.
Yep.
A comedy, 1982.
Yeah.
Videodrome, 1983.
It's crazy. You know what another shocking similarity was to last week?
What's that?
We see another Masha. Was that an 80s name? That must have been an 80s name. I go all 29 years of my life. I've never heard the word Masha, and there's another Masha in this film with a different director. Pretty crazy, huh?
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, that's the first thing I thought
that is a crazy...
But I didn't tell you because I wanted to have something to talk about, so I kept that information myself. Like I was hoarding it. I can't let them know. Need it. My bit.
Well, that's about all I have to talk about this week. JK, this movie's bonkers, and we have a ton to talk about.
This might be a long one, folks,
Videodrome, as we... Yeah, I think this is going to be interesting to talk about because here's what I'll say. Before we actually get into Videodrome, what I would like to say is I have seen this movie, I'm going to say 3 or 4 times. Don't know. The first 1 or 2 times, I think I just took it at face value.
Yeah.
I was like, this rules. Like, it's a Cronenberg movie. The effects are crazy. There's a whole lot of like body horror and sex and violence and all kinds of stuff. And the last time I watched this film, I tried really hard to dissect it, to analyze and figure out what was real and what wasn't, and what was going on. I didn't have a great time doing that. I liked the movie, but I was more confused than anything. So I went into this watch just wondering how I was going to react to this. And this time around, just took it at face value again, and I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I was blown away by this movie, man. I watched a trailer before we started watching it because when I got it off Amazon, there was a trailer option. So I'll watch it, and it was so 80s. That trailer was so 80s and retro, and it was so cool. And then the movie started, and it was nothing like the trailer, at all.
It's so funny because you said in the group chat, or not the group chat, the Loma chat, that the trailer had you hyped. So I'm surprised that this was so much different.
Yeah, I mean, so
what did the trailer make it look like?
It just made it look like it was going to be more like animation, I guess, as far as so there's a lot of characters and bright lights and kind of I thought there's gonna be like more kind of like a Stranger Things vibe, I guess, with kind of like the color scheme and how everything was
Yeah.
kind of like it was quick, it was fast paced in the trailer, and the movie itself became fast paced, but it was just so much different. But I was still just as hyped when we started watching it. Man, I love this movie. So hey, it worked.
Yeah. We'll get into the plot a little bit. Videodrome is the story of a sleazy cable TV channel manager
Not to be
named
confused with
Max
me.
Wren, played by
Not to be confused with me.
James Sleaze Bardo.
At first.
As everybody knows, Lomo does own we do own a cable channel. And we also own the rights to the Videodrome tapes from the film, and we
Mhm.
will be airing them to give everyone
24
uh,
hours.
tumors that will grow inside their body and make them want to do things and get rid of the old flesh.
What a far out. Yeah, long live the new flesh, man. Long live the new flesh.
Long live the new flesh. Uh, Played by James Woods, actual sleazeball James Woods, who is very good at these characters. Um, he is shown this signal that is purportedly being uh, originating out of Pittsburgh, and it is a television program called Videodrome. It is a pirated program. It's essentially a snuff film. Hey, it was straight out of Bloomfield,
That's why I wore my
Pittsburgh.
that's why I wore my Bloomfield shirt today because we're talking about something a little bit that has to do with Pittsburgh. I would have a cup of
Pittsburgh, home of
Tim Hortons too, since it's a Canadian film, but can't get it down
it's
here.
like you a Pittsburgh, a stay in Pittsburgh isn't complete unless it's like got to go down there, you got to get some pierogies, you got to get your parking chair, and you got to turn into the local snuff
You get yeah,
film
the
channel
local.
on cable.
You actually have to go buy a 5 gallon bucket of pierogies, dump a bunch of sauerkraut in it, grab your parking chair, get down to the snuff film place, and have yourself a good old time. Good old Pittsburgh tradition, baby.
Pittsburgh tradition.
Somebody who's actually from Pittsburgh is gonna go. Wait a second, that guy's accent's a little off. Originally not from Pittsburgh. Everybody hate to break that to you, but I tried my best.
Yeah, I mean, I technically lived in Pittsburgh for a year.
Hmm?
So I guess you could call me a bit of a Pittsburgher myself.
No,
Anyways, so Videodrome is this snuff channel that he is shown, and he is trying to get more information about it. Trying to secure it to show on his station, essentially,
yeah,
because he is into he shows a lot of softcore like porn stuff essentially on his channel, and he thinks that things are like missing this hard edge. So um he meets a woman while on TV discussing sex and violence on television. He meets a woman who supposedly disagrees with him, why she's there to talk about the morality of the thing.
you get that like one time.
They
You get to like that was a like she dropped
Right.
that point. They dropped that point quick. The movie, man, quick. They're like,
yeah, he asks her out. He asks her out to dinner on air. Also featured at the. I don't want to get too murky into details, but it's important to mention too that throughout the film and while they're on television, they're interviewed alongside Doctor Oblivion, who is reporting via TV set.
Professor Doctor O. Oblivion.
O parenthesis Oblivion. Doctor Oblivion.
Top of the morning to you. Type of Doctor Oblivion.
Bizarre, but it sounds very bad when you say it. Like it sounds like a weird writing choice when you say it like that. Um, Max Wren hooks up with Nikki, figuratively and literally. We find out that Nikki is into a bit of the old pain and pleasure S&M kind of thing. Um, and the movie really, there's not much I can say to describe the rest of the film other than at this point, Videodrome has infiltrated Max Wren's brain. It is causing increasingly severe hallucinations, to the point where they start with him thinking that he has hit one of his secretaries, and he's kind of frustrated and he's panicking. And it turns
Oh, I
into
thought
him.
oh, wow, this whole man, that's crazy. I thought that actually happened, but you're right, that is about when the hallucinations start. Alright, keep going.
She also says he apologizes for hitting her.
Yeah.
She says, "Hit me? You never hit me." Um,
I thought it was, like, a weird thing,
and
like,
it
she
it
was, like,
goes as
into him, so she was like, "Oh, no, you didn't hit me," and I was like, "Oh, man, everybody just likes to be hit in this movie," so I just kinda thought it was
everyone's yeah, everyone's into the S&M thing.
yeah,
Uh,
right over my head
Starts
there.
with things as small as that, and then it goes all the way up to your Cronenberg. We're gonna call the Cronenberg special, which is a vagina-like, uh, orifice developing on James Gunn's stomach or James Wood's stomach that he is just scratching and fondling and shoving his gun into.
Yeah, that was
Um,
down at that
eventually
point, I was like, "Alright, I'm here. Okay, buckle up." Just
strap in,
shoving
and
that
then
gun right into his chest, through his
eventually
abdomen.
turns into like a VCR. People are that these people who know of Videodrome and what it does to you are at this point at the end of the film essentially using Max Ren to they as a brainwashed person to assassinate people on the other side. And there's some back and forth that goes on. He's basically caught in the middle of these two uh for lack of a better term. I mean, I'm going to say cults. It's not like a cult, but it is these two like radical kinds of thoughts,
Yeah, on opposite ends.
that
They're on
the
opposite ends. Yep.
technology both believe the same thing, that that technology and that living on television is like this new kind of flesh and this next step beyond reality, but they disagree on how to use that. Um, just a I told you this, just a and there's a good chance to use our censor bar. Just a mind hit the bar. The movie, folks. Uh, it's
I forgot I had my
um
mic muted because you can hear the other person in the room just smashing their mouse, so I muted it, but apparently the censor bar doesn't work if I have my mic muted, so I'm like, "I can hear it," but you're like, "Are you gonna hit it?" And I'm like, "I am hitting it." I'm like, "Is this a bit?" And it was like, almost as much of a
what's going
mind
on?
almost as much of a mind F as this movie.
Great segue, Jimmy. We should use that clip for bloopers. Me going,
And we can find
and you
that
can just slowly zoom on my face.
on our TikTok, where you can find all of our bloopers. Well, not all of them. The ones from this show and a couple of these shows, you can find our bloopers on our TikTok. And there's some other places you can find our bloopers and
And
behind the scene shots too, but we're not going to talk about it because we talked about it enough. Patreon.com,
guess what, folks? I know.
Lomo Media.
So yeah, I was gonna say, guess what, folks? I know exactly what the handle to that is because it is just Lomo Media. Go to TikTok. It's at Lomo Media. This has nothing to do with Videodrome. We're gonna cut this up. Although to bring it back in, how interesting would it be to do something like Videodrome now that is more about content that is online versus VHS tapes and cable television? Because that was such a prominent media type in the 80s. And now, obviously, it's like, I don't know. That could go either way. You'd have to get the right filmmaker behind it because I could see it being corny, but I think it would be interesting to revisit.
That was a nice segue into telling our viewers expect maybe a Videodrome esque style film or sketch from us.
I log directly from Videodrome. People are watching our TikToks. They're like, "What is this TikTok?" And the person's like, "It's a mysterious signal that's coming from Pittsburgh," and it's us talking about like poop, and the signal is just like destroying their brain.
That's funny.
Um, so yeah, I am that's about how as much as I want to describe the movies as in terms of a synopsis goes, but this is where I want to get into you said this movie blew you away. When I talked to you last night, we watched it together. You said that it was going to be hanging around in your head for a few
Rent
days.
free.
I want to know. I My biggest thing is that I as a first time watcher, a movie that is I would say less straightforward than Scanners. Um, there's more to think about, I think, in this movie. What were your thoughts? What stood out to you? What did you like? You know,
I'm
how's it
still
sitting with you?
thinking about those scenes, man. A lot of those scenes, and it's very Cronenberg style. That body horror. When you start seeing like those bodies crack open, you see Max's body like distort and just almost his abdomen turns into like a VCR, which fits the whole theme of the movie. And then when he's watching it on his TV at his apartment, the TV starts to pulsate like it's Nikki, and then Nikki becomes the TV almost, and you hear her like moans, and you see the veins in the top, and everything in that living room starts to pulse and become real. And then he just shoves his head into like the glass in the TV and becomes one. It just those scenes are gonna
So
stick
good.
with me. And to come from an 80s film, it was so well done and so well directed that like even I think now it's like you could CGI that all you want nowadays and do the special effects later, but that was real. Like they were making
Uh,
a real attempt and it was very successful. And the characters I think were well written. Each of those characters you kind of knew what they wanted and kind of like how they were trying to get there and manipulate this world. And then the thought of like what is a reality? Like they really question what is reality and I love that in movies. I love that in anything. And I get a lot of like influence from that kind of style. It's like, you know, Dr. Oblivion's like TV media is a reality. It is at your mind's eye because that's what you fixate on. So he's basically saying like your own personal life is not a reality. What your perception is a reality. And I think that's huge. Not to this is not a like philosophical like video
well,
show, but it was just crazy
kinda.
to
I
think
mean,
about.
no, it is worth thinking about, and there is a philosopher that, could have pulled this up on Wikipedia beforehand. There is a philosopher actually that didn't believe the exact same things that Doctor Oblivion did, but at Cronenberg based that character on. And I believe that he does say something about. I believe Doctor Oblivion says something about how at a certain point, being how you are perceived by others, and in this case, it is like through television. But I think if you take a step back, I think it's more just about other people perceiving you. He basically says that that is closer to reality than whatever you
Yeah,
think
and that's
reality
kind
is
of
from
what
your point of view.
and that's kind of like I even said this to you in our in the Lomo chat is I kind of somewhat agree with this. Is I agree with like especially with what we're doing. We do so many different forms of media, you know, like this show, the Lomo show sketches, short films, and we ourselves are going to be portraying different actors. I mean, this probably in this show is the realest you're going to see us, and also in the Lomo show, those are like our real, authentic selves, but not really because we're still kind of putting up an act a little bit. You know, it's still like Showtime when this happens. You know, so if you're only perceived by like 3 or 4 people in your current space of how you really are, and hundreds or thousands or millions perceive you in a different light, you're almost that is the reality of who you are is the perception,
It makes you question your identity.
which
I
I've never
think
done
that
before. That's crazy. I've never questioned who I
it
am
took
ever in my life. This is nuts.
it took 30 years and and several what 29.
29,
Did
yeah.
I take it again? No, this is a sensitive subject. It took 29 years and several Cronenberg films to make Jimmy start to question reality. Um, I think it's. I also think that this is part of it. You can think that this is maybe a stretch if you want, but the idea that notoriously, I'm not going to get into why. You can Google search if you want to know why. The idea that notoriously not good guy James Woods plays this character so well, and he has a reputation for playing. I watched a movie the night before we watched this called Vampires, a John Carpenter film, and he is the protagonist, essentially. It is like the most likable protagonist and the most sleazeball protagonist that you could really imagine. And you could say it's a stretch, but there's something about this movie talking about how you are perceived and like how you are seen in this film on screen, being more real than or transcending the things that you do in real life. And I just think it's very interesting that we have this guy that is has done some bad things, um, portraying these characters that are also making these decisions and doing some bad things.
Yeah, it's interesting when
Um,
they're talking at first, Max talks, he's the simple answer to when he's asked, like, why do you do these things? Like, don't you care about society? He's like, yeah, I care, but we're small and I need to do what I can to compete. It was almost like that ruthless nature of him and a lead was like the really like keystone of the rest of the movie once he says those lines.
uh, I think this movie also has the potential to be corny if it was done incorrectly. Like when you find out that he meets this man, very convex, who works for a uh essentially what is a weapons company, but their front is eyeglasses, and eyewear. Um, and we find out that this man has been in cahoots with one of his employees in order to expose him to Videodrome because they know what it does to people when they show it to them. And he has this very short monologue about, you know, who watched it? Why did you watch it? Why did you enjoy it? And there's this thing. There is this kind of film that is ultra violent, that is has sex, like questionable, not questionable, but I guess just it has like sex, it has violence, and it turns this thing towards the viewers and points at them, and it's like, why? It's like it's almost like there's a lot. I think there's a lot of movies that try to do that, and they do it the wrong way. Like it makes you feel like, oh, like are they trying to point the finger at me for watching this or whatever? The way that this movie approaches the moral question of whether or not sex and violence actually affects people, um, it's almost like not the main theme of the film.
Yeah.
It's like a subplot. I mean, it's a theme that makes sense. It's a theme of the film, but it has less to do with the film than asking yourself about, these meta questions that we were talking about before. And I think it would be corny if it had pointed a finger at the audience and said like, "Oh, you're the one that loves Cronenberg films," but that's not what it does.
Would you want to watch something like that? And it's almost, I don't know. Why did he want to watch it? Was it for his business? Was it for him? Was it for other reasons? I mean, he had a lot of reasons to watch it. I think that's true in today's society too. Like
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
judged on what we watch. People are going to be judged watching this. I'm judging you for watching this.
People are judged for watching the Lomo. Why do you watch this stuff? Sex, violence. Why do you watch the Lomo show?
Two things
Um,
we don't have at the movies is sex and violence.
we're we are missing out on both,
Don't worry
folks.
about
We are
those.
fresh out of both. It is dry over here, ladies and
Woo!
gentlemen.
And zero violence.
Think about why he was watching it, and I didn't think about the way that he starts. He does start watching it for the purposes of his to further his cable channel. And then at a certain point, when Nikki enters his life, because of his encounters with her, turns into something where he is like personally seeking out Videodrome, which is very interesting. I want to touch on the pace of this movie because we watched Scanners before this, and I think we both like Scanners. Um, but I did mention that I think watching that film, I thought it was a little bit slower than I remembered being.
Yeah.
And this film is like an hour and 29 minutes with credits. And after the first act, like after the half hour mark, it pretty much starts ratcheting up. The moment that the TV starts breathing and he starts hallucinating, from that point forward, it doesn't really let up. And I think that this is just a masterclass in pacing your film, having increasingly jarring and effective special effects,
Yeah.
The twists in this film, the character reveals, the introductions, figuring out who's on what team and why, just done so well. I mean, I can see this film not being for everyone, but I can't see people thinking that this is boring.
No, not at all. I mean, this is, I know. I mean, now I think it's a good time to go into it. Now I think is this is now sitting at number one for my Cronenberg films. This is number one now.
Okay. Wow. So let me look at what we've watched again. Because I'm gonna write these down tonight so I have a better idea. Um, I know for a fact that oh, I'm not even gonna say that. I was gonna say I know for a fact based on things I've seen that we haven't covered yet that this isn't my number one. I'm not gonna say that because things change when you rewatch
Yeah, I mean,
these films.
you're you really changed your opinion of Scanners. Not really your opinion, but kind of like you were like, I remember how you saying like, "Oh, this is slower than I remember." So we'll see, and
Yeah, I'm
I
gonna
like,
go ahead and say,
and I
but
personally think that like I have my perception of where these Scorsese films are going to end up in my eyes as well. But I don't know. We'll see when I watch them again.
I'm gonna go ahead and say that this is for me. This is still number two to The Brood, but it is pretty easily, I think, from a technical standpoint. I mean, I really that this is the best Cronenberg film we've watched yet. So here's my question, I guess, for you. We talked a little bit about this last night. I don't want to, go too long, but we talked about what was real and what wasn't. And you said something interesting where you were like, a certain point, you were just like, it's all real.
Yeah.
like, like some of it is clearly not real. So in the sense that like some of it is clearly, in a world that is based in logic and our laws of physics and what we know to be real. Some of it is clearly not real. We know that he's having these hallucinations because of Videodrome. And so kind of something I picked up for the first time when I watched this last night was that hallucinate a lot of the hallucination stuff can just be seen as being like a interpretation of someone being brainwashed.
Yeah.
Like somebody's not actually physically putting a tape in his chest, but they are telling him to go kill a
So two things
handful of
here.
people and
Yeah. So you either come from the camp that you think this movie is you're watching it as a third person viewer, or it's a first person perspective of what Max's reality is. You would have to understand either it's one of those two
of that.
options. So either we're watching this as a third person viewer from Max's like up perspective in Max's world, and then that explains almost everything. If you think that like, oh, it's not real, but then why does Harlan and why does everybody react the way they do when they see these things? Like they see his arm just completely changed. Like, and then Harlan sees and looks at his arm and screams, and everybody in that back room sees it and screams with him. So you start to wonder, like, okay, so is Max hallucinating or is this happening? So there's a lot of different routes to take in this movie, and I think that's why it was such like it blew my mind.
That's a great thought. I also did not think about that
And
in
one
terms of
more,
considering it as a first person experience.
it makes you think again because they touch on what is perception, what is a reality. They talk about this point throughout the movie a lot. And now we, as viewers, go, what is our perception of the reality that we're being presented? And how is that a
Uh,
reality affected from their perception?
Rude was his first great movie. Said Scanners is kind of feels like his first major work. I think this is somewhere in the middle, like a combination of both things. And I think that if people want a Cronenberg movie with more substance that's going to make you think and not just like an action film or a horror film, this is a good one to watch.
Yeah.
I think that I think you do when you watch it for the first time. I think you just need to take what's happening on the screen at surface level and try not to think about it until like after the film is done. Because I do think that if you try too hard to unravel the film while you're watching it, it's going to be difficult to do. But I think if you take it as an experience, I really think I know, like I said, this movie is not for everyone, but the people that do watch it, and do latch onto it, it really is unlike anything that I've seen before.
Yeah.
Um, I would recommend it.
I
And that
mean,
being said, great transition. We want to hear your thoughts. So if you're watching this, if you enjoyed our analysis of Videodrome, we would love to hear from you what your thoughts on the film are. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Uh, what are your thoughts on the philosophical aspect of the film? Definitely do us a favor, like this video, share it if you'd like to, leave us a comment. And next week, we are going to be watching After Hours,
yep.
is another Scorsese film that is kind of a supposedly, I know nothing about this, only what I've read on Wikipedia, another dark comedy in the same vein of King of Comedy, which I'm very excited for.
And a good thing, this is one of the Scorsese movies that I have not watched yet. So
So this is going to be fresh for both of
this will be
us.
a fresh take from both of us. And I
Excited.
thank you to everybody that's been with us this whole entire journey so far. More to come. Thank you, man. I know I say thank you a lot, but I am really grateful to everybody that watches this. Stay tuned. We have a lot of good stuff on the way. So thank you.
Yeah, we are, and I don't know, we can cut this if you want to, but it is the content creator's curse kind of thing where you do things and it's like it's not that I think our last couple episodes weren't good or anything like that. It's just that you get to a point where you get into a rhythm,
Yeah, we're
you know?
really
And
yeah.
I think this film really the other episodes are good and I encourage you to watch them and thank you if you have. But I think you can expect that rhythm. I think we hit that we watched this film and I expect that to continue. So I really hope that you stay with this journey on us.
We're definitely hitting
Stay
our
with us
strides a
on
little
this
bit on
journey.
this, yeah. So I mean, even when we filmed the Lomo show the other, the other day, we're kind of like getting into the rhythm of filming these now. So it's only gonna get better, hopefully.
Absolutely agree. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. We will see you next week at the movies watching After Hours by Martin Scorsese. I'm not Ebert. He's not Roper, but we're going to the movies, baby.